Hello everyone and welcome back to Nate the Hoof Guy. Today's video, we are on a small dairy close to my home and we are going to be looking at some cows with some digital dermatitis. Now a lot of times when we're talking about digital dermatitis, we'll see those flare-ups happen in the larger farms where we have freestall housing, where the feet tend to be wetter and where the cows move about a lot more, so that's a lot easier to spread the bacteria around. But that's not always the case, and that's what we're going to look at here today. We've got a small dairy that's got really clean feet. You'll notice that as we trim these. Clean feet, and yet you're going to see they've got a blow-up happen of digital dermatitis, and we're going to kind of talk about why that happens. But right now you can see I'm working on this foot. You can see how hard it is, and you can probably hear it too as well. And that's, you know, a sign of how dry the feet are, consequently because of the bedding that they're standing in and the conditions that they have is drier, so their feet tend to be drier. And you'd think that that would be a situation where digital dermatitis wouldn't spread, but it can. And what happens is we get a lot of flare-ups that happen where the bacteria may be laying dormant in the foot and kind of can flare up as things happen throughout the winter, or if we get some type of stressor to the cow, they can flare up. And because they're smaller farms, foot baths tend to not be as convenient an option to control these. So you get these flare-ups, especially when it's really cold out. This first lesion we're going to look at is a classic example of digital dermatitis in its location and in its appearance. Now, the reason that we see these flare-ups in the wintertime is because these cows don't go outside when it's really bitter cold. We had some temps for the last 2 weeks where temperatures rarely got above zero. So these cows weren't outside. They were staying indoors that whole time. And what can happen is these bacteria can lay dormant in there. And as conditions become favorable for them, they can just kind of blow up and begin to spread inside that foot. Now, if these cows were able to get outside and walk through that snow, that is a really good way to clean these feet up when we're not using a foot bath. And sunshine as well is another great thing. And so it's a reason why we don't see a lot of digital dermatitis with pasture cows or cows that graze a lot, is because that ultraviolet light does a good job at keeping these lesions at bay. But because those bacteria can lay dormant or live inside that tissues in that foot, they can flare up from time to time, and that's what we're seeing here. We're going to show you a couple more examples of the way they appear differently in different locations, but it all stems from that same lesion laying dormant in the foot and then flaring up as we've had happen here. So the first thing I do whenever I'm going to treat a lesion is I'm going to spray it with chlorhexidine really well, wash away as much debris as I possibly can, and then I'm going to clean out as much as I can around that, get all the little loose pieces of bedding, any other debris that might be able to keep my product away from the lesion. I want to get that out of there, clean out that interdigital cleft. Here you can see a good look at that as we got that lesion cleaned up, what it looks like. Now I'm going to use, to wrap this, I'm going to use something different that I've not used on this channel before, and it's called tetracycline hydrochloride. This is a product that we used to use all the time. It's an antibiotic, so it was a couple years ago, I think 2016, 2017, in that range. It was no longer were we able to buy it as hoof trimmers. So the only way we can use it now is the farmer needs to purchase that and allow us to use it. That way we can administer it. But it's one of my favorite ways to control or to kill digital dermatitis at the shoot side like this. It's just unfortunate we can't use it anymore because of regulations. Now here's another example of some digital dermatitis. This one looks a little bit different, but you notice starts in that same interdigital cleft. I have removed some of the heel there as well. Here's another example of digital dermatitis, only up in between the toes, what we refer to as interdigital dermatitis. Sometimes we even have lesions where they have almost like tentacles coming off of them. This is where the classic name for hairy wart came from. This is the classic lesion, I should say, where that name came from. It's not really a wart at all, but here's a example of one of the lesions that's laying somewhat dormant. There's a little bit of active lesion going on here, but for the most part, this is a non-painful lesion at this point. But you can see this is where it can flare up and just become one of those big strawberry ones. So we got to get this taken care of right away before that happens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat this much like I did that first one. I'm going to sprinkle this with tetracycline powder, and then I'm going to wrap it up. The reason I use this powder at certain farms versus others is just farmer preference. If they want me to use this, then I'll use it. Otherwise, I don't feel comfortable using an antibiotic when you could have some problems perhaps getting with milk contamination. I don't want to have any worries with that. So the only time I use this is when the farmer themselves want me to use it. So let's finish this girl up and send her on her way. Old man Fred, you're going to like this part. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. As always, thanks for watching, and we will see you all on the next one.